Hello and welcome to this bonus episode of the MMA Fan Podcast with me, Stu Whiffin, and always Blake Harrison. Hello.
Hello. This is we've literally just decided to do this, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah. We're kind of
Literally
maverick
no thought.
guys, real
Mavericks
renegades, aren't we?
winging it. Yeah, no thought has gone into it whatsoever. We're just going to have a little chat about what happened last night. We are recording this Sunday morning after waking up early, and unfortunately, even though he did phenomenally well watching Arnold Allen uh, get beat by Max Holloway, that 10-fight win streak of his is now snapped by the great Max Blessed Holloway. Immediate thoughts on the fight after the fight. How do you feel about it?
Um, I didn't know how it was going to go. Obviously, I wanted Arnold to win because he's a former guest of the show and just a lovely guy. But Max Holloway, what a lovely guy. It's like,
Yeah.
It's a fight that I don't know. It felt Arnold Allen's record is impressive, but I think it was maybe Bisping said, his most explosive and best win was Dan Hooker.
Yep.
And Max Holloway's a much better fighter than Dan Hooker,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got no, I'm not going to sit here and pull apart Arnold's performance because I thought he might clinch and wrestle him a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he might sort of utilise his power there. Um, but that said, he looked very comfortable on his feet. You know, that fight could have gone the other way. I know we spoke very briefly, and I'm sure you'll touch on it as we look at the sort of scores, but it was in no way, shape, a schooling or a mismatch or an outclassing of skill levels. Arnold Allen fought a great fight,
Yep.
and the thing that really resonated before, during, and after was just what an incredible advert for mixed martial arts it was, and what absolute gentlemen they are, and it's
Mm-hmm.
they should be waving the flag for mixed martial arts because just super respectful, and yeah, nothing but love for both of them. And Arnold's still a young fighter. I'm sure he'll watch that back, and I'm sure he'll pick faults in his performance. But as a fan of Arnold and following his career and seeing him step up to fight Max, I think was a big step up for Arnold Allen, and I thought he put in a really solid performance. Got nothing negative to say.
No, I agree. I think it was a big step up, but equally, I felt like he showed he belonged at the top of the featherweight division. I
100%.
think Max Holloway is. I think Max Holloway hasn't been beaten in 10 years by anyone other than Alexander Volkanovski. Like, he's got a who's who of featherweight win. Oh no, that's a lie, isn't it? Because obviously, I mean, at featherweight is what I'm talking about. Obviously, he
Yeah,
lost to
okay.
Dustin Poirier at lightweight, but I think the Conor fight was way back in like 2013. So it's been like 10 years at featherweight that he's remained undefeated against anyone outside of Alexander Volkanovski, which just goes to show how good Alexander Volkanovski really is to win 3 times against Max Holloway.
And to the only other blemish on that is to future champion Dustin Poirier.
But that was at lightweight. That
Yeah,
wasn't at
I mean,
featherweight.
yeah,
So
Poirier's
yeah.
going to be the champ by the end of the year anyway. So
Oh
it's no
god, yeah, there we go. Anyway, let's move off of that stupid subject. But yeah, I thought Arnold Allen did really well. It was so difficult, I think, for him to get on the inside of Max, and he landed a few big shots, but Max was countering so well, I think, and some of those kicks to the body looked really, really nasty and looked really good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you scored it any differently. I think I scored rounds round one to Max, round two for Arnold, round
yeah,
three clearly for Max.
yeah.
And then round four, I think, is a tricky one. I think I gave it to Holloway, but I
I gave
think
it to Arnold round four.
you can give it to Arnold for sure. And I think one of the judges did. But that round 5 was a really interesting one because up until the last kind of like 6-7 seconds, whatever it was of that round, I think Arnold was winning round 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then he stepped into a punch from Holloway that kind of dropped him. And even though he got back up fine, it still dropped him.
Yeah.
So I think you can give 5 to Holloway because of that, even though up until that moment, I gave it to Allen. If you scored it 48-47 Holloway, that's fine. I think I scored it 49-46 Holloway. If you score it for Arnold, a couple of people I've seen have done that.
He
I don't
scored
quite see that.
49-46, 49-46, and 48-47. That was the
Yeah,
decision.
I probably had it 49-46, but it was close. That round 4 was really, really close.
Yeah.
And there is a world in which I suppose maybe Arnold has won that fight. If he wins round 4 and you don't give him that final, and you don't give Max round 5 because Arnold did enough damage to counterbalance the dropping. I mean, I don't see that. I had it 49-46, but I still think it was close, and he held himself really well against Max Holloway. But sadly, it's just one of those things where he's come up short. And my biggest gripe with the whole thing is that what I feared could happen as a result of this fight has come to fruition. And months ago, when this fight was being rumored, I was saying, I don't like this fight. I don't think it's good matchmaking, because as much as a spectacle, it put together a really lovely fight for us to watch. Now, where are we at? We had a guy on a 10-fight win streak. Should have been getting a title shot. Instead, you've stuck him against Max Holloway, who has no chance really of getting a title shot unless Alexander Volkanovski gets beat. And the way he's been fighting recently, I think it's unlikely. You know, Yair's a crazy fighter. He could pull something out of the bag for sure. But even then, you're probably going to do the rematch. So to stick Max Holloway up against the guy who should be next in line for the shot, I think is bad matchmaking. Because if Max wins, Max isn't getting a title shot anytime soon while Volk is still the champ. So all you've done is halt a fresh title fight for the champion, which just seems pointless. I just don't understand it. So now we're in a situation where I think Ortega's injured, but he's already fought for the belt. Max has already fought for the belt. We've got an interim title shot between Yair and Volk. I'm going to look now. Josh Emmett obviously just coming off a loss. Who else is in there in the division? Chan Sung Jun, he's already fought for the belt. Calvin Kattar, he's coming off a loss and a bad knee injury. Giga Chikadze, I think, is coming off of a loss to Calvin Kattar, is he? Was that his last fight, or was his last fight Barboza? But still, he's not put together a big enough streak. You have to go all the way down to the 9th ranked guy in the world, Ilia Topuria, who's looked very, very good lately. But you go all the way down to the 9th ranked guy in the division before you really see a viable title contender. I need to look now to see if Topuria's got a fight booked, but I just don't think it was clever matchmaking. Arnold Allen should have been either against, and I wasn't really a fan of this either, but either against the Topuria, so you get a clear number one contender.
No, man, that's way behind Arnold.
Yeah, but what's the point of fighting Max? But for the sake of the division, why fight Max? Yeah, if he wins, yes, he's number one with a bullet, whatever it is. Yeah, he's the guy. But shit like this happens, and you're like, oh, we've lost a good contender now.
Well,
so I just don't like it. Oh, Ilia Topuria is fighting Josh Emmett. Sorry, Ilia Topuria is booked to fight Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett is 5.
That's a good.
That's a great scrap. Ilia Topuria, if he wins, will be ranked 5th, and maybe that makes sense for Volkanovski's next fight. But if Volk beats Yair, he's beat Holloway 3 times, he's beat Brian Ortega, Arnold Allen's ranked 4th. It should have been Arnold next.
Yeah, but
I just think it's bad matchmaking.
If you're Arnold Allen, you look at the cards that have been dealt and you go, right, do I fight Topuria, who's ranked like quite a few spaces behind me, who's really dangerous, or do I fight one of the biggest names in the sport? And he wouldn't have took that fight unless he thought he could beat him.
Yeah, but my problem isn't with Arnold Allen. My problem is with the matchmakers. Like
Yeah, but
Arnold
we'd
Allen,
be
of
having a
course
very
he's
different
taking that fight.
conversation though if you won. You know,
Of course, but why run that risk? It's like putting the guy that should be fighting Adesanya next against Robert Whittaker. And then you're like, oh, Robert Whittaker beat him because Robert Whittaker is that damn good.
but
And now what are we doing? We're going all the way down to like 8th or 9th in the rankings before Adesanya's got a fresh title fight.
Look, we both agree that he should have fought Emmett for the interim, right? We both believe
100%.
that should have happened. Right?
100%.
That's where this issue, I think, started. That was a bad. Yair should not have been involved in that. That was Arnold and Emmett, and I think Arnold would have beaten Josh Emmett, and I think we would have been looking at a very exciting title fight. It hasn't panned out that way, and I don't know. I don't think Arnold Allen to Poirier would have been a fair fight for Arnold. I think it would have been a real backward step. And
I agree with that, but
yeah.
for the sake of the division, that would have been better
fighter,
than Arnold Max.
Arnold's an inactive fighter, and what does he do? Does he go, I'm not fighting Max Holloway? That's pointless. Like, and then what happens? What does Arnold Allen do this year?
But that's my point. Is I don't have a problem with Arnold taking that fight because it was offered for him. My problem isn't with Arnold. My problem is that fight never should have been pitched. As we've established, the UFC should have offered him an interim title fight. He should have been number one. Whether he fought Yair or Josh, I thought Josh earned it more. Yeah. Obviously, Yair's better fighter than Josh, but in terms of meritocracy, and we all know that's a dirty word in the UFC, but I feel like it should have been Arnold, first name on that contract, regardless of whether he was fighting Yair or Josh. Great. It didn't happen. After that, I mean, on a 10-fight win streak, I know it's probably not the thing to hear, but just wait. Just wait and get the title shot afterwards, maybe. I don't know, but I just think
he's done a lot of waiting. There's been a lot.
He has done a lot of waiting, but my point is, regardless of it being for Arnold, for Max, for whatever, we're now looking at the featherweight division, and as I just laid out, let's say Josh Emmett lands one on Topuria and knocks him out. I don't think that's likely. I think Topuria should win that fight, and he will probably be next in line after that because he'll be top 5. But let's say Josh Emmett lands one on Topuria and Volk beats Yair Rodriguez. Shall I tell you what happens after that? There is no proper viable number 1 contender, so Volk goes back up to fight Islam Makhachev. That's what happens if that's the case, because Volk was saying the whole time, someone's got to stand out to me. Someone's got to stand out and be the number 1 contender. So they made the interim title fight. If he beats Yair and Josh Emmett lays one on Topuria, who's the next title challenger for Volk? Who's earned it? No one. He can't fight Max for a 4th time being 3-0 up. As much as Max is probably the number 2 to Volk's number 1, you can't have that for a 4th time. So what do you do with that division? I just think they put themselves in a position where they've shut down a fantastic contender who had already earned it because he was on a 10-fight win streak. But
I've seen that Max this morning said he'd like to fight Zombie.
Who did Max?
Yeah.
Have they not fought before?
No.
All right. Well, that's a good fight because that's good matchmaking because neither of them's getting a title shot anytime soon because Volk's beat both of them. So that's great matchmaking. But I don't know. It just frustrates me.
Arnold and Zombie wasn't there. There was lots of talk of that a while back, and that would have made sense as a fight as well.
That would have done, yeah.
Really experienced vet in Zombie, and a real good test for Arnold. But yeah, unfortunately, it hasn't panned out. But it was a solid fight, and yes, I don't think Arnold's stock has gone down. I think more people now know who Arnold Allen is. More people will love Arnold Allen because of who he is and how he carries himself. He's such an understated, calm, nice guy, and we saw that, from Max as ever, and I just think the world definitely knows who Arnold Allen is now, and I think, like you say, what is he, 29, Arnold?
Yep, I think so.
I think he's going to have to be a couple more fights to maybe get that shot. And I don't know what them couple of fights are going to be, because the division,
No.
as you say, hasn't worked in a smart way.
No, I mean, and there are some absolute killers in that division that will be looking to go up. And I don't see Arnold being someone to ever turn down a fight unless he's
Yeah,
injured. So, I mean, as I say, you could rebook the Calvin Kattar fight because it sort of didn't quite happen.
yeah.
Um, but you could, if Josh Emmett loses to Poirier, you could do Josh Emmett, Arnold Allen. You could do Giga Chikadze, maybe. Bryce Mitchell is up there. He got beat by Poirier recently. He's already fought Sadiq Youssef. So
I
yeah,
think
I don't
Arnold.
know. I mean,
I think
Brian
Arnold walks
Ortega
into.
would be a good one. I'd like to
Yeah,
see Brian Ortega fight Arnold Allen as well. But yeah,
Arnold walks into
we'll
any
have
of
to
them
just wait and see.
fights. He walks into any of them fights,
Yeah,
knowing he can beat them all now. I'm convinced
I
after
think
that.
so.
After being in there with Max, I think everything else he will consider now as being totally winnable.
Yeah,
And from seeing how comfortable he was in there with a legend like Max. And let's talk about Max Holloway's performance as well, because we spoke a lot
yeah,
about
man.
Arnold here, and um, Max was fighting kind of in a style that we don't see that often from him. He wasn't putting the forward pressure on. Arnold was controlling the
No,
octagon really well. It,
yeah.
it waned a little bit towards the sort of the latter rounds. You see Max on the front foot a bit more. Um, but what we did see him, when he was on the back foot and Arnold pushing forward, was his counter striking was unreal, so fast. Anyone that starts saying that, Max Holloway's an old man, blah, blah, he's 2 years older than Arnold Allen. And
Yeah, a
he
lot of
did not.
miles on the clock, but I
Yes,
mean, and
he's
I
got a lot
thought
of
at
miles
one
on the
point it would
clock.
catch up.
But
I
I
thought at
think
one
them
point it would catch up to him, but clearly not yet.
I thought them miles presented themselves as fight IQ and experience last night, because you see him,
Yeah,
dealing with a super powerful guy in Arnold, who's super fast and strong. And you look at Arnold Allen's back, when in that last round, I think, or the fourth round, when he did clinch a bit, you just think that geezer looks insanely strong. And
yeah.
and I'd like to have seen a little bit more ragdolling from Arnold. I'd like to have seen how Max dealt with that.
It's
Um,
really that's tricky though because Max has got such great takedown defense that you could wear yourself out. And this was, I think, was it what the first time Arnold's been 5 rounds? Is
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that's another one where you just go. They might have been worried about the cardio aspect of utilizing the wrestling, trying to get Max down, and maybe not achieving much because very rarely do people get Max down.
yeah.
And so they
Max,
were just like, let's do the kickboxing thing, try and take a leaf out of Volkanovski's book. And yeah, I mean, as I say, the counters that Max were putting in there and those body kicks and
well, the
stuff
body
were
kicks
very, very good.
were clearly tactical insofar as, look, this guy got 5 rounds in him. Look how big and strong he
Yeah.
is. He's never
Mm.
been 5 rounds. Let's work his body and
Yeah.
see if we can sort of gas him out. And it didn't work. He held his
Yeah.
own to the last bell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're massive fans of Arnold Allen on this show. We only want to see him do well. And as you say, that taking away nothing from him in this performance, because I thought he did really well. And Max is just Max, and Max is
Legend.
the number two. He's the number two. Like,
Mm.
I don't know what the British equivalent is, but the Americans always talk about the Mount Rushmore of this and the Mount Rushmore of that. And it's usually like the top four guys in whatever it is that they're talking about. And I don't know what the British equivalent of that would be, but if there is a featherweight Mount Rushmore or whatever it is, then you've got to put Max Holloway on there, probably definitely alongside Jose Aldo and now Alexander Volkanovski. And I suppose there's a space free for someone else at some point. But
Yeah, a couple of years we
yeah,
could just can't run on that. Like,
Arnold Allen. Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Is there any more
is
fights that you wanted to? I mean, we saw another.
from that card.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've
Just a
not
couple of
seen.
great finishes. I
Yeah,
mean, the Edson Barbosa finish of Billy Quarantillo was fantastic. That knee straight up the middle as he was going for a takedown, and the other one was the one that I put a tweet out ages ago, just saying how I commented on someone's thing saying that Nicolau versus Brandon Royval on the prelims is an absolute travesty. There's no way that should be on the prelims. It should be on the main card. It was like 4th versus 5th or 4th versus 6th or something like that. And the winner of that fight could be looking at a title shot next. And Brandon Royval, man, talk about knees. That was really special from him because Mateus Nicolau has been looking fantastic lately. So Brandon Royval with that knee was really good. And he's a really exciting fighter to watch. And he's got an interesting one. If Moreno beats Pantoja, then you could see Royval fighting Moreno again. It would be a rematch, but Royval really badly injured his shoulder during the fight. So from Royval's perspective, he could very easily be saying, hang on a minute, that first fight is not what would normally have happened. I had an injured shoulder, blah, blah, blah. And that could make some interesting kind of promos in the lead up to a fight between them, if that's what happens next. But anything you wanted to talk about on the fight card?
Yeah, there was lots of kind of retirement talk last night. Clay Guida done something quite odd, which seemed to ruffle Dana's feathers a little bit.
I haven't seen that. What did he do?
He kind of sort of made this sort of retirement kind of chat, and then basically it was all about then actually saying happy birthday to a friend, and it was quite odd. Bill
Okay.
Algeo beat TJ Brand. Took his gloves off, said he was going to retire, and said, "No, of course I'm not retiring. I wouldn't fucking retire in Kansas. You Bud Light drinking, Uber Eats eating," and just slated Kansas. To which he then walked out to like obviously an arena of booze. Obviously, you know he's trying to get some attention, and it worked. But there was
That's quite funny. I quite like it. I mean, I don't know what the Bud Light Uber Eats
I
like.
imagine it's
I don't know
derogatory.
what the. Yeah, but I
but,
don't really see why. But
but
sure.
one of the things that was really beautiful last night was Zach Cummings fought in his hometown, and he put on a fantastic fight against fellow vet Ed Herman, and it was a really good fight. Zach Cummings dominated him incredibly, just boxed really well. Ed Herman, 42 years of age, you know, you could tell it was time. And
Yeah.
as a fan, it looked like it was time, and that time did come in round 3. And Zach Cummings, you know, he's talking to DC, talking about, you know, his career and such, and then his daughter comes running in and jumps in his arms, and he starts crying, and then Ed Herman takes his gloves off, puts them in the center of the octagon. Zach Cummings takes his gloves off, puts them next to Ed Herman's, and they both are on their knees, both retiring, and then in front of each other, and then hugging. And I'm literally getting quite emotional talking about it. It was
Oh man.
you hear. I think it was Anik was just like, "Hey, there appears to be a lot of dust in here today. I've got something in my
Oh yeah.
eye."
I did hear that. Yeah.
It was a really beautiful moment, and yeah, I think in regards to sort of seeing things like that, and then seeing the respect between, you know, just to bring it back to Max and Arnold, that's what mixed martial arts needs. You know, real stories like that. You know, real emotion, real nice people doing nice things, and it just really kind of hammers home that this sport is more than just, you know what some people perceive it as, and
Yeah.
we need more of that, please. And yeah, and if you've not seen that, go and watch that double retirement, because it's beautiful.
Yeah. Cage Warriors was on
Big
last night
night,
as well, wasn't it? How did
big
you feel
night.
about the Cage Warriors card? You were all over it, actually. Well done. You were I was putting the kids to bed throughout some of it, and I was desperate to try and get to watch it, but I just kept watching the older MMA fan podcast, Twitter and Instagram, and I was able to keep up to date with all of it. So well done for doing all of that stuff. But how did you find the card?
Let me tell you something, Blake Harrison, right? I fucking love Cage Warriors. I fucking love it.
It is good. Ian Dean does a fabulous job with the
Ian
matchmaking,
Dean
doesn't
is a
he?
fucking genius. Brad Walton absolutely smashes it. Like,
Yeah.
he's superb. And yeah, like, I know that it's, anybody in the industry will credit Ian Dean as being, a mastermind when it comes to matching fights. And boy, did he get it right last night. I won't sort of break down the whole card. It was a pretty good night for Next Gen last night. Paddy there was their cage side. Good to see another, obviously Paddy, former guest of the show. Oban Elliott was cage side. He's got a big fight coming up, and go check out our episode with Oban. But I think Next Gen kicked off with Liam Gittins, who fought fighting out of Jack Shaw's gym. He fought Rory Evans, and Liam Gittins got a really impressive KO of knees and elbows in round 2. Really, really great fight. Gavin Hughes fought Chris Bungard. I know Bungard's a training partner of Paul Craig up in Scotland at 155. It's a tight fight that. I think Gavin Hughes again he's a Next Gen fighter. And the decision went to Bungard. It's a split decision, a little bit contentious with the team in Manchester, with the crowd in Manchester, it seemed, but he got that. Right, so I think Ewan Davis got a submission guillotine over Deck Dean in the first round, and it was a phenomenal finish that. And so one of the fighters that I've been watching, and you know, it's nothing new in me getting excited about a Next Gen fighter, but Luke Riley, he fought Callum Parker. Now Callum Parker had a week's notice for this fight.
Yeah.
He trains at Alliance, I believe, in America, and he's flown over, and I think they've done it at catchweight, and I think people were presuming that Luke Riley was just going to steamroll him. Callum Parker put it on him in the opening round, and it was like, whoa, we have got a fight here, and it was a phenomenal opening round. I think people were saying it could ideally, you know, it could possibly be one of the greatest ever first rounds of a Cage Warriors fight. It was. I was trying to send our little MMA group, go, boys, watch this opening round. It's special. And then you just see Callum Park's had a week to prep for this, so you know his gas tank was not going to be 110%. Luke Riley's was 120% last night.
Yeah,
he looked incredible. The speed and precision of his boxing is superb.
Callum Parker had to eat some vicious knees to the body as well. Like I went on the back of your recommendation because I got down after it had finished and I rewound it a bit to watch some of it.
You enjoy it, right?
Those knees. It was a great fight. It was really, especially that first round was really, really good because Riley got sort of like, I don't know if it was officially, I can't remember if it was officially like dropped or if he just kind of stumbled down and back a little bit, but he looked rocked early on in the fight. And then, as you say, like it just went on them, then it back and forth. Body shots from both of them. Callum Parker was ripping the body. Luke Riley was just some vicious knees. And then, it just after a while, Luke Riley just got the better of him, I think. But it was a really, really cracking fight.
Yeah, we're going to see big things from him. I'm pretty sure of that. And then another Next Gen fighter, Adam Cullum, fought Dimitri Zhilin.
But that's when I came down. So that's initially when I came downstairs at the start of the third round of that fight.
Going into this fight, and Dimitri Zhilin was, I believe, he was 5-1. What a fight!
To be honest, I missed a lot of because I came downstairs. The third round started. I was like, I'll get to see this third round. Bink! Within seconds, it was over. He caught him flush with that right hand. It was incredible. Really impressive.
It was a pretty tight fight. You know, I thought Zhilin looked really, really solid. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around Cullen, but 4 seconds into that third round, head over to Cage Warriors. It'll be on their Instagram and just watch that right hook because they don't get a lot cleaner or sweeter than that. Okay, right. Interesting. James Power got a big win at 155. Lucas Capera not coming out for the third round, I think he'd had
Yeah.
enough, and Power had just sort of broken down over the 2 rounds. But let's move on to the 2 main fights, and
Yes.
former guest of
Nathan
the show
Fletcher.
and top lad. We were speaking to Nathan on the socials last week. He said he's happy to come back on, so it'd be great to get Nathan to come on, and maybe we'll talk through an upcoming card with Nathan as a guest, because he's a top lad, and he was fighting Dandouge, and I mean,
Took the fight on short notice as well.
yes, clinical performance from Nate. Obviously, trying to avenge his first loss. Obviously, so much attention, and again another next generation fighter. So much attention was being thrown around. Everybody was touting Nathan to be, the next big thing, and he took his first loss, and he's took it like a champ, and he's come back and put on a performance like he did last night, and you could see. As they were introducing him, you could see him mouthing the words, "You can't beat me." That's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sure he was saying. You can't beat me. You can't beat me. He looked very, very focused, and you could see when he got that triangle in and choked him at the end of the first round. Once that
Yeah.
fight got stopped, you could see the elation and how much getting that win meant for Nathan Fletcher.
It's actually his second win in 4 months after that Dominic Wooding loss, I think. And
that was for the title as well, wasn't it?
The Wooding one was for the belt, I
Yeah,
think, if I remember correctly.
was.
And then since then he's come back with 2 wins. He's doing well. I mean, and it was just one of those things with that Dominic Wooding one. I think he ate a knee on an entry, and then that set him up for just, he tried to survive as long as he could. He ate I think a head kick and some punches and
And we're
stuff.
talking
But
about Dom Wooding here as well. No fall.
no, absolutely. Yeah. So, no shame in that at all. And then Nathan Fletcher's so young as well. Like, I think he's got big things coming. He's only 25. So yeah, I think, and he trains out of a really top gym. So yeah, fingers crossed that he keeps winning and he can get back to a title shot very, very soon in Cage Warriors, and then see what happens after that. But the star of the show, as he always is recently, was George Hardwick. I mean, I saw a tweet from Sean Sheehan, basically saying, if you don't know Jan Liasses, like you sort of will after this type thing. That's the way I interpreted it anyway. And so I was thinking, oh no, is this guy really, really good? Because I didn't know much about Jan Lias, I have to say. And obviously we're always team Hardwick brothers. We love the Hardwicks. And I was a bit like, oh God, how's this going to go? And George, at first, it did seem like he couldn't quite work Jan out for a first minute or two or whatever it was. And he seemed to have good kickboxing and be able to control the range well, Jan Lias. And then George just landed a right hand on his chin, and it just changed everything. And then he was able to kind of chase him around and get the finish. But it seems to me like it's crazy not to have this guy in the UFC now. He's defended the Cage Warriors belt twice. He's defended it twice. His last, God, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights he's finished.
He's always said he wants to be an active champ, and that's admirable and brilliant, and he's shown that he is that. But I'm hoping that the narrative of Georgie's story changes now, because he was walking back to his dressing room. He said that there's a Parmesan chicken waiting for you, Dana White, for your next Fuck It Friday, and so I think he wants that UFC contract now. Seeing that the roads that other Cage Warriors fighters, what they've done to secure that contract, George Hardwick has done that, in my opinion, and should rightfully now be moving on to I hope the UFC, but obviously there are other options out there. But I think George Hardwick, and if things keep going the same for brother Harry, he probably won't be far behind him. There's lots of both absolute fan favourites. It was something interesting that Brad was talking about. Brad and Dan were talking about last night, was the fact that it's not like George has brought down like 50 people from Middlesbrough to Manchester to watch that event last night. Manchester knows who George Hardwick is, and that was apparent last night. get that guy in the UFC. He's a
100%.
terror. He's an absolute
Eight,
terror.
as a 8-fight win streak. The last 6 of those have been finishes. That is really fantastic record. I mean, I don't know. We spoiler alert. We've just had a chat with Jake Hadley that will be coming out soon, and he was talking about having to go to through the Contender Series in after becoming the Cage Warriors champion. Surely, George, with 2 title defenses, shouldn't have to do a Contender Series fight or something like that. But I can just see George being someone that just takes whatever comes his way, because he seems like a guy that just wants to fight. He
Yeah.
just wants to fight and showcase that he's
Calm.
one of the best in the world.
How calm was he? Like, you just
So
watch
calm.
him walking out.
Yeah.
He looks completely unfazed by it.
Mm.
He looks like he has got some, real focus, mental,
Yeah.
stability going on there. Like, he just looks like, yeah, this is just a step for me. And it was, and he showed that in spectacular fashion. And yeah,
Absolutely.
get him a contract in the UFC, Grand Boy, and we want to see it happen. Right. Well, considering we've just said we're going to do this quick, off the cuff episode, with well, I've had a nice time. I've just got to bang on about Cage Warriors. Sorry, mate. I ain't really
Yeah.
took a breath as I've rattled through that. I get so
No,
excited
it's
talking about
great.
Cage Warriors. But yeah, and also if you're UFC fans and you don't necessarily watch any other organisations, honestly, if you've got Fight Pass, then when there's a next UK or the Dublin card coming up of Cage Warriors, just start watching it, because it's phenomenal, and you see future champions coming to fruition. It's wonderful, and you'll see most of them British fighters in the UFC that are now superstars. They all had that belt around their waist at some point, and yeah. So go check out Cage Warriors if you don't already do so. Right, I think we can wrap this one up, can't we?
Yeah. Nice little impromptu chat.
Yeah.
Lovely.
All right. We'll
See you
back.
later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.